Okay, let's just dive right in because the New York City news cycle did something today that I honestly didn't think was possible anymore.
What's that?
It managed to actually shock me.
Which, considering the last few years in New York politics, is really saying something.
Right, it is Saturday, January 24th, 2026. And if you've been following the headlines, you know the ground has just shifted under the political establishment. We are talking about Frank Carone.
The ultimate power broker. The guy behind the guy.
Exactly. For years, he's been this untouchable figure. Former chief of staff to former NYC Mayor Eric Adams, a high-powered lawyer, the so-called architect of that whole administration.
And now, today,
Mhm.
the news breaks that he is officially under federal investigation.
And this isn't just, a routine inquiry. We're seeing reports that involve the FBI, federal prosecutors in Brooklyn, and they're digging into his business dealings.
But this is where it gets really, really interesting, and it's why we're doing this deep dive.
Yeah.
When we think political corruption, we think, simple bribery,
Yeah.
envelopes of cash.
The classics, yeah. But this story is so much more complex. It's about what we're calling the fraudemic.
That is the key word, fraudemic. It suggests something systemic, something widespread.
So our mission today isn't just to report on a subpoena. It's to unpack how political influence, very complex legal structures, and, believe it or not, auto insurance schemes all intersect.
We're analyzing a brand new report that's connecting the dots between City Hall, a consulting firm, and these massive fraud allegations involving, of all companies, Geico.
It sounds like a movie script where the writers tried to jam way too many plot lines together. So let's start at the top. Who is Frank Carone? Because for a very long time, he just felt totally untouchable.
He really, really did. I mean, if you look at the Adams administration, it was absolutely battered by investigations.
Constantly.
You had the school's chancellor, deputy mayors, police commissioners. Yeah. It was just an avalanche of phones being seized, homes being searched.
It felt like every single week there was a new raid. But Carone, he was always the one walking out of Gracie Mansion in that dark suit, open-collared shirt, looking completely unbothered.
Exactly. He was this dominant force in Brooklyn Democratic politics. He helped Eric Adams get to the Brooklyn borough presidency way back in 2013.
So he was there from the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Then he was the engine behind the 2021 mayoral campaign. He served as chief of staff for that chaotic first year, then left to start his own firm. And all while people around him were just, getting caught up in legal drama, he seemed to have this force field around him.
Until now. So what happened? What do we actually know about this particular investigation?
Well, according to the reporting, this isn't new. Prosecutors have actually been focused on him since at least the first half of 2024.
Wow, so this has been simmering for a long, long time.
A very long time. And the detail that really stands out to me is from May of 2024. That's when grand jury subpoenas were issued. But they weren't sent to Coron directly, not at first. They were sent to the clients of his consulting firm, Oak Tree Solutions.
Oak Tree Solutions, that's the firm he started the second he left City Hall, right?
The day after. January 2023, right after he left the administration. And get this, here's a detail that tells you how serious the feds are.
Go on.
Prosecutors reportedly obtained the company's bank records before they subpoenaed the clients.
Oh, wow. So they already had the numbers. They had the map.
They were following the money first. That is a classic, aggressive prosecutorial move. You build the financial skeleton before you go ask people to put meat on the bones.
And do we know what kind of clients were subpoenaed?
The reporting suggests a range, but there was a real focus on real estate partnerships and other business deals.
Okay, so a power broker and real estate money. That is the classic New York story. But I want to pivot now to the part of this that really made my jaw drop, the fraudemic.
Yes. This is the twist that takes this from just another political story to something bigger, systemic.
We're talking about a connection between the highest levels of City Hall politics and auto insurance fraud. How?
I know, it sounds totally disconnected, but this is where you have to look at Carone's history as a lawyer with the firm Abrams Fensterman.
Okay.
He and his associates have been tied, in federal lawsuits filed by Geico, to what Geico calls massive fraud schemes.
Massive fraud schemes. You don't use language like that lightly, especially if you're a giant corporation like Geico.
No, you don't.
So how does a law firm even get involved in car insurance claims?
To get this, and to really understand the fraudemic idea, you have to understand New York's no-fault auto insurance law.
Okay, break it down for us. Let's say I'm not an insurance adjuster. How does no fault work?
In theory, it's a good system. It means your insurer has to pay for your medical care after a car crash, regardless of who was at fault.
Okay, so it's designed to get people treated fast without waiting for lawsuits and all that.
Exactly. You get hurt, the insurance pays the doctor, you get better. Simple.
But because that money is guaranteed by the insurer,
It becomes a massive, massive target for fraud. It's a guaranteed pot of money, usually up to $50,000 per person.
so the pot of money is there. How are they allegedly getting it out? This is where the mechanics are just fascinating.
The structure that's described in these lawsuits, it's complex, but it's kind of brilliant in a really dark way. The allegation is that Carone and his associates created these things called funding companies.
Funding companies. Okay, walk me through that.
So imagine a clinic that treats car crash victims. They treat a patient. Then they have to bill Geico and insurance companies. Well, they can drag their feet.
Right. They ask for paperwork, they deny claims. The doctor could wait months for that money.
Exactly. A huge cash flow problem. So enter the funding company. They go to the doctor and say, hey, we will pay you right now, upfront cash for those claims.
In exchange.
In exchange, you sign over the right for us to collect the full amount from Geico.
Okay, that sounds almost like a legitimate service. It's basically factoring, right? Buying debt at a discount.
On the surface, yes. Factoring is perfectly legal. But Geico alleges that this wasn't just about cash flow. They claimed the system was, and I'm quoting here, fueling fraudulent schemes.
So they weren't just passively buying the debt from the clinics.
No. The allegation is that they were creating the incentive for the clinics to generate as much billing as possible. Phony treatments, unnecessary procedures, exaggerated injuries.
Because the funding company had the legal muscle to then go and force the insurance companies to pay up, it turns the clinic into a billing factory.
And the funding company is the engine. But it gets even grimier than that. Geico also alleges that some of the money wasn't even for medical funding, it was laundered.
Laundered how?
This is the wild part. They claim money was moved through a jeweler.
Wait, a jeweler? Like diamonds and watches?
It reads like a crime novel. The allegation is the funding companies would send money to a jeweler who would then provide cash or goods that could be used to pay kickbacks.
Kickbacks to who?
To the steerers, the people on the street who are funneling the accident victims into these specific clinics in the first place.
That is incredibly sophisticated. You're using physical assets like a watch to break the digital paper trail.
It creates a total disconnect. A wire transfer is traceable. A Rolex handed over in a coffee shop. That's a lot harder to track. It turns the whole medical system into a cash extraction machine.
Okay, so let's be very, very clear here for everyone listening. These are incredibly heavy allegations. Has Frank Carone himself been criminally charged with this insurance fraud?
No. And that is a very important distinction to make. Neither he nor his former law firm have been charged criminally with this specific insurance fraud.
But others have been, right? This scheme isn't just something Geico made up.
Well, the fraud is very real. In 2024, Manhattan federal prosecutors, a different office, by the way, charged several defendants in this exact same orbit.
For what?
Criminal conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud using this exact no-fault system.
Yeah.
And 3 of the 4 defendants in that case pleaded guilty.
So the scheme happened. People admitted guilt. The big question is, what was Carone's role, if any?
Exactly. Geico's lawsuits say his entities fueled it, that without the funding, the fraud couldn't have happened on this scale. Carone's defense is the complete opposite.
Right. The firm claims that they were the victims.
They do. A spokesman said they acted ethically and lawfully. Their argument is basically, we were just the bank. We lent money to these doctors thinking they were legit, but they turned out to be crooks who stole from everyone, including us.
So it's one side saying, you built the machine for fraud, and the other saying, we were tricked by the guys using the machine.
That is the core tension. And to their credit, they point out that they filed a complaint with the Brooklyn DA and even sued to try and get their money back.
But the fact remains, federal investigators in Brooklyn are now looking at his business dealings, and they already seized the bank records.
Right. And investigators look for patterns. If you're a victim once, that's bad luck. If your business model repeatedly seems to connect with fraudsters who end up pleading guilty, investigators start to ask if maybe the business model itself is the problem.
It really brings home this fraudemic idea. It isn't just one person faking a neck injury. It's the entire infrastructure, the lawyers, the funders, the launderers, that makes the scale of it all possible.
It industrializes theft,
Right.
and when the person allegedly connected to that infrastructure was also the chief of staff to the mayor, that raises enormous questions about governance.
Which brings us right back to the politics. You cannot talk about Frank Carone without talking about the broader legacy of the Eric Adams administration.
Impossible to separate them. Coron was the architect.
You mentioned the administration was battered by investigations, but there was that one incredible twist with former Mayor Adams himself we have to talk about.
You're talking about the corruption case that just vanished.
Yes. It's one of those things that if you wrote it in a TV show, the network would say it's too unbelievable. Adams was indicted.
He was. Federal corruption charges, bribery, straw donors from foreign governments. I mean, really serious stuff.
And then, poof, gone.
Not just poof, it was the context. After Adams was indicted, the Trump Justice Department in Trump's second term just abandoned the case.
And Coron was involved in that.
He was reportedly the one who helped broker the relationship between the indicted Mayor Adams and President Trump.
So the chief of staff helps his indicted boss get friendly with the president.
And then the DOJ drops the case. But they didn't even say it was because of a lack of evidence. They argued in court that the administration needed Adams's help with immigration policy and a trial would get in the way.
That is just wild. Did the judge buy that?
No. And that's the key. The judge, Daley Ho, explicitly wrote that the dismissal, and I quote, smacks of a bargain, he called it out, dropping criminal charges in exchange for policy help.
A literal quid pro quo.
According to a federal judge, yes. And Coron was the one who built that bridge.
It's all about leverage, isn't it? On one side, you have the fraudemic, leveraging the legal system to pull money out of insurance. And on the other, you have this, leveraging political relationships to make federal charges disappear.
It's the architecture of influence. Find the pressure points in any system, legal, political, whatever, and press them until money or favors come out.
And speaking of pressure points, we have to briefly mention the crypto thing, because it just adds this layer of almost absurdity to the whole story.
The New York City-themed cryptocurrency coin. You can't make it up.
Chuckles. I mean, come on. After they leave office, Adams and Coron launch a crypto coin.
They did. And, shocker, the launch went sideways. Now they're both facing accusations of misleading investors on that front, too.
It just feels like everywhere they turn, there was some kind of angle. Real estate, insurance, crypto.
Which is what makes this federal investigation so significant.
Yeah.
It seems to be looking at the totality of these business dealings and asking a fundamental question. Was this consulting, or was this a criminal enterprise disguised as consulting?
So how is Coron responding to all this? He's always been the guy in control.
Oh, he's coming out swinging. That's his style. He released this very defiant statement.
What's the argument?
He says the scrutiny is because of three things. One, jealousy over his success. Two, his political ties to Adams. And three, he actually went here. He said it's based on stereotypical assumptions about his Italian-American roots and his Brooklyn upbringing.
He's quoted as saying, baseless accusations are nothing new to me.
Right. He's framing himself as the victim of a witch hunt, saying anyone who knows him knows he's conscientious and principled.
But the expert in you would say?
The expert in me would say that federal prosecutors in the Eastern District of New York and the FBI don't typically seize bank records based on stereotypes. They do it based on math. They look at the ledger, they follow the money from the insurance company to the funding company to the jeweler, and if that flow looks like money laundering, they investigate. It doesn't matter where you grew up, it matters where the money went.
And we should be clear again, an investigation doesn't always lead to charges. We don't know the full scope here.
Absolutely true. But the timeline, the fact they've been at this since early 2024, that they have the bank records. This isn't a fishing expedition. This feels more like a dragnet.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener? We've got this powerful consultant, this web of companies, money laundering through a jeweler, and a political dynasty that has just crumbled.
I think it matters because it exposes how fragile the systems we rely on really are.
Yeah.
You know, we think of city government as trash pickup and road paving. We think of insurance as that boring bill we pay.
We just assume they're basic utilities.
But this deep dive suggests there's a layer above that, a layer of consultants and power brokers who see all that city infrastructure as a business opportunity.
The fraudemic concept again. This isn't just street-level crime.
Exactly. When we talk about insurance fraud, we think our premiums might go up a few bucks. But if these allegations are true, we're talking about a system designed to protect crash victims being strip-mined for profit by people with access to the highest levels of political power.
It just completely blurs the line between business as usual in a big city and an actual criminal enterprise.
And it shows that even the most powerful operators, the ones who think they're the architects, eventually have to answer to the math, the numbers on the bank records. Sooner or later, they just don't add up.
That is a really sobering thought. We're watching a legacy just get dismantled in real time.
And we are probably only seeing the tip of the iceberg.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on today. We spent this whole time talking about how the no-fault insurance system, which was designed to be a safety net, was potentially used as a private piggy bank for political insiders.
A truly terrifying concept.
It is. So ask yourself this. If they were willing to leverage something like car crash injuries for profit, what other municipal systems are currently being leveraged that we just don't know about yet? What other safety nets in our city are actually just someone else's revenue stream?
That is the question that keeps investigators and should probably keep citizens awake at night.
On that happy note, we will leave it there for today. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.